As a software engineer, I would like to give my take on the current controversy regarding The Last of Us 2. In this video I will be spoiler-free, so I can't give you the specifics why this leak causing people to cancel pre-orders, but in short, it's because it seems that gender politics are much more prominent in this game than they should be. And the main twist in the game is outrageous and outright disrespectful towards the original main characters. If you like the first game, you most likely don't want to play with the majority of this one. In my next video I will have a spoilers discussion, but until then, let's take a look at the drama itself and why is it happening. To see how big the problem is, we first need to talk about Anita Sarkeesian. She is probably the most hated person in the gaming world, and she did work hard to achieve this. She is an internet feminist who, to get the public's attention, started a series titled Tropes vs. Women in Video Games. These videos are about how video games are objectifying or mistreating women. She created many videos about video games where she talked about how these games influence men to hate women. Just by saying this, you can guess that her accusations are mostly invented. Her videos were debunked many times on the internet. She clearly did not understand many of the video games she were criticizing. She used stolen footage from other players and stated ridiculous accusations. For example, in Hitman Absolution, she says this about the strippers in the game. The player cannot help but treat these female bodies as things to be acted upon, because they were designed, constructed and placed in the environment for that singular purpose. Players are meant to drive a perverse pleasure from desecrating the bodies of unsuspecting virtual female characters. It's a rush, streaming from a carefully concocted mix of sexual arousal connected to the act of controlling and punishing the representation of female sexuality. While in reality, you were punished by losing point if you did attack these women, and in Hitman your goal is to be stealthy and undetected. Sure, you can go out and murder everyone, but the game does everything to convince you not to do that. Because while she stated that these women are there for the singular purpose to be acted upon by the player, she misses the fact that these women have dialogue. And it is about how their bosses are exploiting and harassing them sexually and physically. For everyone who played the game, it is obvious that the purpose of these women is to feel empathy for them and give you more reasons to kill your target, their boss, in the most creative way possible. So it should be obvious that these videos are intentionally made to make gamers angry about her lies. Because it is known, even by her, that the gamer community, which mostly consists of young boys, is usually using hate comments as a weapon in these situations. After she received enough hate comments, she runs around in the media as a victim of constant online harassment. And even today, she makes her living as an expert of this topic. And if the hatred against her is getting low, she releases new content to generate some more. It's fair to say that she is one of the most famous con artists today. So that being said, it's seriously worrying that someone from the gaming industry would actually consider her viewpoints and advices as legitimate ones. But sadly, it is very much the case, and anytime the gaming community tries to make her lies known, she and her media outlets will identify it as online harassment, and she gets more speeches and more money out of it. But why do we need to mention her to discuss this issue? For that, we need to talk about Neil Druckmann. He is the vice president of Naughty Dog and worked as a creative director in many games. He did work his way up to the top, however, this journey gives a lot of red flags. He was promoted to be leader of the creative team for Uncharted 4, which was in development that time. The previous head of creative team, Amy Hemming, who was the biggest female name in the industry, was reportedly forced out from the company after his arrival. The very details are not public, but the fact that from the 20 original game designers and writers, 30 left the company at that time, gives us a very worrying sign. Rumor says that the high rate of leaving the company is due to Druckmann's political views as an advocate of gender equality in video games, notably citing Anita Sarkeesian as an influence. Many people who left the company report that they are not allowed to criticize or even talk about the feminist agenda in their games. Supposedly, this was the case when the original creative team of Uncharted 4 was forced out after his arrival. His political views were not very prominent in Naughty Dog's previous games, but as time went on, it became more and more apparent. He only joined Uncharted 4 at the end of the creative cycle, but he still managed to inject the quote-unquote strong female character, a black woman who beats up the main character. Later in Last of Us, namely in the Left Behind DLC, they stated that the main character, Ellie, a 14-year-old girl, is homosexual. Even back then, it was a little bit off that we need to talk about an underage girl's sexual orientation, but turns out it was just the preparation for the much more prominent role of sexuality and feminist propaganda in the second episode. But before speaking about the leak itself, we also need to take a look at the working conditions at Naughty Dog. In many gaming companies, including Naughty Dog, developers are generally underpaid, but they get really high bonus in the end of the development cycle, depending how well their game have been received. This is how the company motivates its team to create a good game. Because of this bonus, they can get higher total salary than the industry standard. But it's also how the company mitigates loss if the game is a flop. That being said, you can see it's quite problematic if the game is delayed and the development doesn't go well. Many developers who did leave the company during the development of Last of Us 2 reported that there are huge management problems in Naughty Dog, and it slows the making of the game greatly. This lowers the morale and threatens the income of the developers. Above than that, the working conditions are extremely bad. With constant overtime and many management problems, the vast majority of veteran developers already did leave the company, and Naughty Dog struggles to hire new members, since the word did spread among developers that Naughty Dog is currently one of the worst places to work at the industry. But the greatest problem came because of the coronavirus. The game was delayed indefinitely, so the developers would not get their bonuses for an indefinite amount of time. Because of the virus, many people were afraid for their jobs, and most of the workers wanted to get at least a portion of their bonuses in these critical times. This request was denied by the management. However, the management itself, including Neil Druckmann, did get their bonuses. From some workers, this was the last straw and wanted to force the publisher to release the game as soon as possible. And the easiest way to do that is to leak sensitive information about the game. Let me explain why this works. Controversial leaks are lowering the general will of the market to purchase the game, and as the leaks are reaching more and more people, the damage is going to be greater and greater. At this point, changing anything would be really expensive, and most likely wouldn't increase the sales numbers at all. So, the publisher at this point only have one option: to try to hold back the leak from spreading and release the game as soon as possible. This will cause the development team to get their salaries in time, and we see this happening. Now we have an official release date, and the company is trying to hold back the spread of the leak by abusing the copyright system of YouTube. So even though what I just said is not confirmed, from knowing how these companies work and seeing the signs, it sure looks like this is what's happening right now. And we get confirmation about it from former employees every day. So this is why I want to split the spoiler discussion to another video, because it's most likely going to be taken down. So I hope you did like this video and join me for the spoiler discussion later.